So the addresses are available. Let's try and go and actually, we have the interface up and running, but we also need this function right here inside the actual implementation, which is the address repository. So I'm going in there and I'm going to right click the address repository and say just implement the things I'm missing. It'll go down here and create a new one, GetAllById, sends in a list of ID, and here we go. So what I want to do is first of all I want to say if the IDs are null. So if you're sending in an empty null list, then just return null. Then that's out of the way. So I don't want to end up having a null list right here. So we'll return null. Notice this is another way of writing the syntax. I don't need curly brackets actually when I only have a single line right here. I can just do it in a one-liner like this. Again, I'm all into one-liners. If you don't like that, you can always add the curly brackets like this just to make sure that you understand that this is only for this statement right here that you return null. I'll do the curly bracket there and I'll do the semicolon right there. So now we're saying if you return something, then just return a null value back to the guy. So if we do actually not do that, how do we do this? Well, step 1, let's try and do context. There. Step 2, let's try and get the addresses. Addresses, yeah! Now, notice these are actually right now a DB set of addresses. So what we're going to do next is we're going to make a where clause. Where clause. Where? I'll stop doing that. So we'll start making a where clause here, and it'll end up with an address or a divide by 0 exception. It'll end up with an address right here, and I'll say where address.id, IDs contains, and then I want it to look for address.id. There we go. So now we're trying to figure out if the address ID is inside the list of addresses. So there we go. That's all we had to do. Of course, we also need to return this guy, but notice we can actually return it now without calling the to list. And then at any point in the future, I can decide when I'm getting all by ID, I can decide I want it instead of a list. I want it as an enumerable. I want it as an array. I want it as something completely different, right? Because now it's an enumerable, so I can actually convert it into whatever I need. That's the power with this compared to this. So I really think when you guys start building the real application you're going to build at some point, maybe change everything from list to enumerables if you want to use the power of actually deciding later on if it should be a list or it should be any of the other possibilities you have here, because I could actually continue doing where, toString, toList, hash set, dictionary. I can change it into pretty much anything I want. Now with the link you can do that with a lot of other operations, but here you can kind of work with everything before you make the conversion. That's just the point. Let's see if it runs. So let's just try and do a send again, and nothing really should have changed because it's the exact same thing as I did before. Yeah, there we go. We have everything available again. So it's just a different way of doing the same thing, right? So let's talk performance for a second. Would this really do any performance increase? No, not with this small list. We wouldn't have more than a few customers. We wouldn't have more than a few addresses on a customer. So no, it wouldn't make a difference. But let's say we had a customer who had 500 orders. Maybe the performance would increase a little bit. But it's up to you if you want to use one or the other. It's just another way to kind of give the responsibility of getting all by ID to the actual repository instead of having that responsibility in the business logic layer. Really up to you how you want to do it. See you in the next lesson where we'll talk more about how we can actually do the update. Have fun.